Hi, this is Jason DeWeird. Today we're going to talk about how to turn vacuum pods on and off for your Pro Manufacturing automated model. We've started with our manufacturing assembly. If you're with me for the last lessons, I've temporarily removed the other steps so that you can see this a little more clearly. So we have our part in our manufacturing assembly. We're in the manufacturing application. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a representation for the pods. We're going to do that with an extrusion of a thin surface. Notice that we're not doing a cut. I'm going to locate those off of this main plane here. That'll be fine. Now, depending on the actual configuration of your pods, this will certainly affect where you locate them, but for our purposes, I'm just going to do a simple representation here. It'll just take me a second to lay it out. You would think that the best way to do this was to create one and then to pattern them. Go ahead and try it if you like, but you'll find that it does not work when you go to do the next step, which is the merge. So again, it will fail to merge if you make this as a single item and then a pattern. That's why I'm kind of doing it the hard way here. A little bit annoying, but we'll get it drawn up, and then once we're drawn up, we'll be fine from there. I'm going to create each pod. I'll make them all the same diameter, of course. The machine that we're working with has 4-inch diameter pods, so I'll set them all to 4 inches here in just a second. We want a grid or a matrix, and then we want the part to automatically fire the correct pods depending on what it overlays. When it overlays a pod partially, we don't want it to fire, and when it overlays a pod completely, we do want it to fire. Let's fast forward through this section to help maintain your sanity. I need to set the size at 4-inch diameter. There we go. Now we can push these both directions. In my opinion, you should push them both directions. So we don't need to go this far. Let's just be a little more reasonable. I want you to be able to see what's happening here. Okay. Get in a little bit. You can see we have these, I'll call them cans, that represent the pods. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to have a surface to merge them with. So I'm going to sneak around to the back side of the part here, selecting the back surface of the part. And Control copy, Control C, Control V, copy paste. You don't have to do anything else, I just accept it as it is. You can see I have my pods here. I'll just rename them for you quick so you can see what we've got. And you can see I have my back surface here. Okay. I'm going to show you what happens. It can cause a significant amount of frustration. Let me show you what can go wrong here. I'm going to merge the pod features, or cans, I call them, with the back surface. And when I go to do that, I select the pods and the back surface. This part is all correct. But edit, merge, so far so good. But you'll notice that everything stays pink. I'll show you in a second what it looks like when it's right. But if it all stays pink like that, it's never going to work. You can try and try and try, but your feature will always fail. So, here's the trick. Why did your feature fail? I'm going to back out of this and I'm going to show you what's happening here. If we go back into our main part, we go down. If you recall, we made a large surface. This was the one that it was a problem if it wasn't big enough. Well, guess what? It's a problem again if it's not big enough. You'll notice that it doesn't intersect the parts completely. You wouldn't think this would be a problem because we're not trying to intersect this part at all. We're trying to intersect the surface that's attached right to the back of our part. It really does matter, and it will cause you a ton of pain if you don't have this right. So what we want to do, we're going to make sure that this is bigger than the window we're working with. And I can do that just by setting it here like that. Just make this a little bit bigger. And we're going to make this a little bit bigger too. Regenerate it. Okay. Now that feature, we can double check here, is indeed bigger than the realm of our pods. Let's go back to our pods. We got our pods and our back surface, the two that we want to merge. Select Edit, Merge. Now we know it's working right. These little yellow lines are the hint. That's the hint that we're getting what we want. But to do this, what we're hoping to do is we want the part to intersect these little cans, and we want to be left with what's underneath the part with a lid on top. Maybe a little hard to describe, but let me show you what it means. So I'm pointing down, meaning I want to keep what's underneath. You see my little yellow arrow here? I'll flip it back up. There, it's down. I want to keep what's down, and I want to keep what's inside. There's outside, there's inside. That's what I want to keep. I'll let it go like that. Now I'm going to hide the part so you can see what I'm talking about. Just hide that for a moment. That's exactly what we want. We have our can, or our pod, and the part is cut it off, and so we have a shorter bottom step there, see that? And then we have a lid on top of that. That's exactly what we want. Now I'm going to show you what else goes wrong in the next step. In our next step, we want to create a mill volume. So to create a mill volume, I'm going to go to mill volume here, and this will define the area that we want the pods to turn on. This comes up with just an X and an extrusion. Don't extrude. Nothing's going to work here. We don't want to do any of that. You won't know what to pick. Here's the trick. You have to pick on the surface carefully. There we go. We got that top surface. We need to thicken that surface. So we're going to go Edit, Thicken. There we go. Something's still not right. Let me change this a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to make these a little thinner. Get the preview. As you can see, it's trying to affect all of the other ones. We don't want to do that. So there's our second mistake. First mistake was how we didn't have the pods completely covered. Second mistake is not knowing what to do, I guess, once we went to make the mill volume. Third mistake is, although we selected the right surface, we've tried to thicken all of the parts. So I'm going to back out of this and I'm going to show you what we need to do instead. Here's the trick. All the way out of the mill volume, we're going to come back, we're going to select this surface. Now we're going to go to Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste. We just made a copy of those little surfaces. There it is, copy one right there. That's the one we're really going to care about. That's what we're going to work from. So now we can take that. We'll start a new mill volume. Again, we're not doing a mill window, we're doing a mill volume. Nothing to be selected here unless you manually select the part you want. There we go. Oops. There we go. We've got it selected. I can thicken it. We're going to thicken it. It really doesn't matter how thick it is. This number looks fine to me. So there we go. Now essentially we've made it a little solid sitting on top of these little partial pods, and that's going to define our milling region. So that's our mill volume. We've got that set. That looks good. Now we have a green check. Now we're happy. Most of this stuff then isn't very valuable. I'm going to hide it now so you don't have to look at it all the time. There you go. That's a little better. That's going to show you what the pods will mill. Now they don't really mill, but the pod tool has to fit within that zone, and if the pod tool fits within that zone, like this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, then the pod will turn on. In any case where the pod has been interrupted, like in here, the tool won't turn on. So just like when we created our other NC steps, we're going to come in and create a new operation. Now if you already have a machine in place, you may not need a new operation, but for us we'll need a new operation. So operation in the machine, I'll create my machine 0. That's essentially any coordinate system where Z is going in the right direction. Let's see if we have one here available. I think I accidentally deleted the one I wanted, so I'm going to make a new one really quick. Excuse me a moment. Oh, I know where it is. It's hiding in here. That's right. I'll make a new one real quick. making sure the Z goes up, so we have to change our orientation here. There we go. Now we have Z going up. That's the key. Sorry about how I got there, but at least we got it done. We're going to do our offset. This really doesn't make a lot of difference, but we'll go ahead and put our offset in. That's okay. Now we're going to create our new step. We can do this with a volume rough, since we have a volume to work with. When I pop it open here, you'll see that it wants to pick a window. Well, I want to pick a volume instead. Now, we're going to need a new tool. Our end mills aren't going to work. We're going to need a tool that's specific to the pod. So I'm going to name it pod. I'm going to use the end mill tool, that's fine. We're going to make it 3950. Don't go full 4 inches, and don't go a lot less than 3.950. We want to get it pretty close to the size, but not exactly the same as the size of the real pod. If it's too small, it will try to turn the pod on even if there is a small imperfection in the pod. So we want to make sure we catch everything. We created our pod. Good. We're going to have to set some of these values. They're a little bit annoying, but go ahead and get them set anyway. Step depth 2 is fine. Step over 0.5. Whatever. Don't make a whole lot of difference, especially in this case since the pod is just on or off. There's not much more to it. But we do need to select the volume. So I go down here and I'm going to select the volume I just created. And that is my mill volume right here. Okay, that's good. Let's see what we get. Oops, I got something wrong here. I got my mill volume. There we go. I'll select it by hand, so that's even better. Thinking? Good. So here is our huge pod mill tool part thingy, I guess you want to call it. And we're going to give it a play. Okay. Give my little path looker here. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. That easy. Those are the only 4 that work. Why is this one not working? Oh, I see why. Look, somebody drilled a hole through it. So we don't want that pod to turn on, or we'll drill a hole right through it. The other pods are all partial, and it's pretty obvious why. These will be the only 4 pods that will turn on. But now you know exactly which pods will turn on, and it's robust. As we make any changes, the right number of pods will turn on. So there you go. That's how you create the pods. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.